Okay, welcome everybody. It's lovely to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sean, for the introduction, and to Kate for that grim but inspiring opening address, I think, that helps focus why we're all here today. So welcome to the first plenary session of the very first Circular Economy for Climate and Environment conference here at ETS. As Sean mentioned, my name is Dana Cordell. I'm from the Institute for Sustainable Futures here at ETS. Where I lead our food systems research, but also work very closely with my colleagues such as Melita Jasbeck and Jordan Roods on our circular economy for organic resources research program as well. And I have a particular focus, as some of you know, on phosphorus security and sustainability. So for the morning session, we've got 2.5 hours for this plenary, and with this wonderful team of speakers and panelists that we have here, we're going to really, they are going to set the scene on what some of the big sticky issues and challenges are for thinking about a circular economy, particularly for climate and environment. And we're going to have a particular focus on nutrients in this conference, as you know. But first, of course, I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land who are meeting today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past and present. And I'd also like to acknowledge their amazing ability over the past 60,000 years to sustain their food systems through the artful use of fire. So without needing concepts like the circular economy or a periodic table of elements, they were able to recirculate, for example, phosphorus through burning, patchwork burning of the landscape, which released vast amounts of unavailable phosphorus stored in vegetation into the ash. And as we know, ash is essentially like a turbocharged fertilizer, and that was able to blow and land on adjacent lands and fertilize the land once again for new vegetation.
Definitely need habitable land management.
We certainly do, and as Kate said, as we're approaching this potentially very scary El Nino season here in Australia, we hope that we can have much better management of our fires and our land by the traditional and rightful owners of our land. So what we're going to be doing over the next couple of hours, as I mentioned, first we've got 3 fantastic plenary speakers, Lisa McLean, Martina Doblin and Aino Hayes, and I'll be introducing them a little later on. So they'll be giving a presentation each, and then we'll have a nice chunky hour for our panel discussion. And there will be some audience participation via Q&A, but also a bit of a real-time audience vote, so stay tuned for that. And this will take us through to morning tea today. So first let's step back and say, well, why are we actually here today? Why do we need to transform the way we use and manage nutrients and other resources in the anthroposphere, this human system that we've created? Firstly, we know that we're not going to meet Australia's climate targets without a circular economy, and switching to renewable energy alone isn't enough. And you'll hear more on this from Lisa McLean, our first plenary speaker this morning. But we also know that recirculating nutrients can actually play a huge role in reducing Australia's greenhouse gas burden. Because a lot of people don't actually know that the food system contributes about 1/3 to total global greenhouse gas emissions. And that means there's some really good opportunities like recirculating organic waste to prevent methane builds up in landfill, or thinking about prevention and reducing demand, so thinking about shifting diets towards more plant-based foods to reduce that methane load. But it's not all about our climate targets and achieving energy security. We also won't actually be able to grow our food into the future if we don't return a vast majority of nutrients, like phosphorus, and other resources in organic material back into the food system. So we need to be paying attention to the nutrients that we're recovering and where we're going, and trying not to create conflicts between nutrients for fertilisers versus energy versus other landscapes. How can we do that in a more synergistic way? And in this tiny graph you can see pictured here, this just shows the future global phosphorus demand to meet future food security into the future. And the point is that we won't be able to meet that demand unless we invest in a whole portfolio of options. In the blue you see investing in efficiency and demand management, and in the red you see investing in recovering nutrients from human waste, from crop waste, from So we're going to need all these different options on board just to meet future food demand, let alone energy and other things. So we need to keep all of these in our minds today while we're working through the opportunities and challenges. And finally, we know we won't be able to live within the safe operating space of our planetary boundaries if we don't stop our wasteful and inefficient habits that's leading to biodiversity destruction, extinction, mining of critical finite resources, widespread pollution. And Martina Dobbin will be talking a little bit more about this in her presentation today as well. And just I think this month we've seen the release from the authors of the Planetary Boundaries, released the 2023 update, which actually shows we've transgressed 6 boundaries. So it's getting pretty scary. That's why we need to do something. If we zoom in a little bit and focus on nutrients for a moment, thinking about the risk profiles of nutrients in fertilisers, we know that the way we're currently sourcing and using fertilisers is unsustainable, leading to huge risks for food security, environment and climate. And you can see this a graph or image of the risk profiles of the different nutrients in the different colours. Don't have to read all the detail, but the point is that there's a whole diverse range of risks here. And what's really critical is that they're actually all interconnected, and we can't just address one problem or one risk. We need to keep all of these in our minds at the same time. For example, there's a lot of interest in investing in green ammonia to decarbonise nitrogen production because it contributes so much to greenhouse gas production. And also because of the recent conflict in Russia and in Ukraine, and all the relying on Russian gas. But if we're only focusing on those kinds of solutions, we'll miss some of the other risks that we're facing, such as the huge environmental burden of nutrient pollution on our waterways, or the fact that most farmers in the world, many farmers in the world, still can't afford or access fertilisers, particularly when we get these price spikes and supply constraints. That's a huge issue. And so when we're talking about the circular economy today, let's also be mindful of equity and access and affordability as well, because that's also going to be core. So the good news is that there are many diverse sustainability benefits to thinking about things differently in a circular economy, to investing in, for example, renewable fertilisers. There's benefits for food security, ranging from buffering against those risky fertiliser price spikes and supply disruptions, to all the water security and environmental benefits, the climate resilience that I mentioned it can contribute to, and a whole host of other environmental benefits, in addition to contributing to local employment and manufacturing. And again, you might hear more from this from Lisa McLean this morning. So the big question is, will the circular economy approach save us? And what exactly does a circular economy for nutrients mean? What does that look like? Because we know it's not just about recycling. It's core, but there's a lot more. And here's a little schematic that we at the Institute for Sustainable Futures have been developing of the circular economy for organic byproducts. And some of the examples of what we might mean when we're talking about a circular economy of nutrients is, first, remember there's the hierarchy, and we need to think about reducing demand and waste in the first place. So efficiency first, because we know, for example, the phosphorus and nitrogen value chains, 80 to 90% is lost. That's one of the most inefficient value chains in the world. We need to really tighten that up. We need to think about redesigning products. It's a really core principle of the circular economy, so let's not forget that. And thinking about service provision as well. So for example, thinking about new products like renewable fertilisers, or how we can meet a service like agricultural productivity or soil fertility or water quality. How can we deliver on those outcomes without just making the same kind of products in the same linear value chains? We need to think very carefully about the sustainability and ethics of the raw material inputs. We want to look towards renewable, recycled products with low greenhouse gas footprints, low energy, low water, and toxin-free. We talked a lot yesterday at the NICE Summit about contaminants. So let's keep that discussion on contaminants today. I think Martina might pick up on that as well today. And I mentioned we need to think about prioritising end uses, or how can we optimise not just locking up nutrients for one use so that they can't be used for something else. And I'm sure we'll hear from Melita Jazbek today, either in the panel or in her talk after lunch, about co-benefits. How can we recycle those nutrients for bioenergy and fertiliser generation? But how do we get there? And I'm not going to answer that question. We've got these fantastic plenary speakers and panellists who are going to help answer this question today, in addition to all of you in the room. So without further ado, I'd like to start to introduce our three plenary speakers this morning, who we're very lucky to have. First, Lisa McLean, the CEO of Circular Australia, who'll be speaking on the circular economy more broadly, a national agenda for Australia and the Pacific. So she'll be setting the scene for us and where we're going in Australia and how we can get there. Professor Martina Doblin from UTS's C3 will be taking us in another direction from a planetary boundary of coastal waters, looking at inputs of anthropogenic nutrients and other contaminants into coastal waters, reminding us of the inextricable links between the climate-Earth system and what that means for what we do on land, for the oceans, and how can we protect our new land oceans, those planetary boundaries, and the role of the circular economy. And then we're going to pull up our sleeves, put our boots on, get down and dirty, because Abraham Noah Hayes from the Rich Earth Institute is going to give us a real life example of a functioning nutrient circular economy in the US, reflecting on 10 years of urine diversion development, with some of the findings and lessons learned. So it'll be really great to have a concrete case study there. So each speaker will have around 25 minutes to talk. We will probably hold questions for the Q&A during the panel, so thank you for your patience, but write down your questions in case you forget them while we're talking. So it is my pleasure to introduce Lisa McLean, and I'll just share with you a bit more about Lisa. As I mentioned, she's the Managing Director of Circular Australia, which is a national independent not-for-profit, if you're not already aware of the great work they're doing, leading the transition to a 2030 Australia circular economy. And she's a member of the Federal Government's Circular Economy Ministerial Advisory Group. She has been successfully advising industry and governments in developing new policy frameworks and regulations that bring about market change to enable the circular zero carbon economy over the past 20 years in infrastructure, energy, water, waste and mobility sectors, both in the UK and in Australia. So thank you so much, Lisa. Welcome.